G'day, IB psychologist. Forgive the silly thumbnail, but I really want you to see this message. This is a public service announcement to mind the gap in your IB Psychology internal assessment graphs. Now, when you're using Google Sheets and you select to insert a bar graph, you're going to get this as the default, right? It's two separate columns with a very thin bar. There's a very thin space in the middle. Now, even though there is a space, the IB considers these bars to be touching, and it's a mistake according to the rubric. So you have to make sure that there's a wide gap between your bars. Now, how you do that is quite complicated, and I did express this, and I tried to get this up the ladder of the IB to explain, hey, look, this is the default in Google Sheets. It's not the student's fault. There is a gap there. Should we be marking this down? But that is how they were marked last time, and so it's just easier to mind the gap. Make sure you don't have a graph that looks like this, but you have a graph that has a wider space between the two bars. I will put a link in the description to my full video explaining how to make the perfect IA graph. Just remember, and bear in mind though, in that video, I explained how to put error bars. Now that's actually a step you don't need. You're not marked on your error bars, and in fact, you run the risk if you make a mistake with your error bars, right? It's actually worse. So I would almost encourage you, and in fact, I would encourage you, just have a basic bar graph. Don't worry about the error bars, because if you get them wrong, you can lose marks, but you don't gain marks by getting it right. Right? Now, the reason why I explained in that video how to create the error bars is because I have a lot of students who want to do it, because that's how they do it in other subjects, but just bear that in mind. So to recap, make sure you have a clear wide gap in your Google Sheets, and you don't have that little narrow gap, and everything else for a good graph applies. Good heading, outlines, margins labeled, all of that. All right, mind the gap, otherwise your graph will have mistakes and you could get marked down. Link in the description on how to create the perfect IA graph.